Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining the session today on storytelling. So I thought we'd kick off with quite an interesting question right now, which is, in the age of disruption, how can storytelling help a brand differentiate itself amongst its competitors?
So it is quite challenging, to be honest. Times have changed, and typical storytelling strategies don't work anymore. And we've seen over the past 25 years, storytelling has completely changed. Like, take an example of reality TV, right? When people see real people going through the problems in their real life, they resonate with it. Social media has given us access to behind the scenes of almost everyone and everything. So that means like people really do need real and authentic stories. So brands need to work really hard to make it really authentic for their audiences. Plus, allow the audiences to resonate with them, backed up by products that actually give them the right experience and the right quality or whatever the story is selling it. So I think it's a huge challenge for us marketers to come up with real authentic stories that are really, really in with the times, with the audiences, with the employees, shareholders, and there's so many stakeholders like working together to create it and to tell it repeatedly.
Just good points. Stephen, your experience?
I think for me is, even if you're thinking about this time where digital disruption is affecting every industry, if you go back 1,000, 2,000 years, stories is how we shared wisdom, how we shared information. We are programmed to listen to stories since the advent of time. It was the earliest form of communication before the written word. So we used to sit around and share stories around the campfire of, how do I keep out of danger? How do I find food? How do I build my society? And I think that's not even changed from today. But that's why we are programmed to like stories. And today you would think about, right, it's my update on Facebook. It's my update on Instagram. We're still sharing short stories about our lives. It's just the platforms have changed. But if you look at the science and the data that sits behind it, if you look at behavioral scientists, they say the brain lights up when it hears stories. There's 5 times more activity in your brain, and there's 10 times more chance you're going to remember something. So the way that you architect the story is really important, because it can translate a message and people can adopt and consume that message and take that on board. So I think if you go back to the way as humans, the way we think, learn, pass on wisdom, stories is possibly the fundamental way we've done that since the advent of time.
Absolutely, and I think, to build onto everything you guys have said, really, the thing about disruption, and certainly, disruption on many levels, there are new businesses coming into market that are disrupting, traditional sectors and really shaking them up and down, is it forces us to think about our purpose and our principles behind that purpose, which then become the stories that we take out so that we get the world to understand them. In my world of creativity, I think often what we see is brands taking their manifesto and pushing it out to the world. Well, actually, most of the people you're talking to aren't really interested in their manifesto. They're actually interested in your behaviors, and do it rather than tell me you're going to do it. And for me, storytelling is the way to do that, whether it's, and again, I love Stephen's thing about, social media and how that's helping storytelling. I don't think storytelling is necessarily a long-winded process. It can be very instant. And as long as the people who are creating those stories understand the purpose of why they're doing it, we can get to them very quickly and deliver very short-form stories that work on the behalf of a brand to connect with the audience.
And I think it comes down to how you architect that story. I mean, that's the challenge. And to talk about brand stories, you should be really talking about customer stories, personal experience, where as a person, there's a journey. What journey are they on? What obstacles do they need to overcome? Can the target audience you're trying to influence, can you put them as the protagonist in your story? Can they do, if it's James Bond that you like, can they pitch themselves as James Bond? If it's a CIO that's trying to understand digital disruption and the way that disruption will impact his industry, build a narrative which is relevant to that person you're trying to influence, and then take them on the journey with you. I think that's the key principles.